My wife said, baby, let us pray. That was the last comment that she made, let us pray. If only she had little support, she would have survived. I'm a lawyer. I'm based here in Lagos. The name of my late wife is Akudo Lovelyn John. The story with Gynescope started when we registered my wife for antenatal care around the 13th week of the pregnancy. Sometime when she got into the 3rd trimester, I was there with her. We attended that particular session, and the doctor in question, his name is Dr. Joseph Aliyu Yahaya. He's a consultant gynecologist, I think he's an obstetrician or so. So during that session, my wife asked, you know how women want to know what's happening with their baby? She was so excited about this pregnancy. So she asked, doctor, what's the size of our baby? So the doctor took us to where he did the ultrasound in his office, did the scan, did the reading, and said that the baby is big. In fact, the doctor said that the baby at the time was around 3.8. So when he said that, I asked him, why can't we do CS, given the size of this baby? And the doctor dismissed it and said that there are no indications for CS, that there's no need for CS, that my wife would be able to deliver. We submitted to his higher, assumed, higher knowledge. When it was time, on 1st of December, I returned from work. My wife told me she was having mild contractions. We immediately chatted the hospital and told them we're coming in the next morning. Tuesday, I drove my wife there and went prepared. We got there, and the doctor we met, Dr. Ebuka Ibokwe, Chukwu Ebuka Ibokwe. So he examined my wife, he did a VE, and said my wife was 2 centimeters dilated. So I went downstairs, brought the items, and they admitted us to room 1 on the 1st floor. So she was moved to the labor ward. I was there the entire time. I made a commitment. Every single step, I am with you. So I was in the labor ward, and I saw everything that happened. When she got into the labor ward, after some time, she was 7. Before then, the consultant induced labor on my wife. Before we knew it, she was 10 centimeters dilated. In that room, we had the consultant, 2 nurses, the other doctor, Dr. Ibokwe, and 2 other women who introduced themselves as midwives. So when it was time for my wife to go into full labor, that's where the issue started. Remember, he had said the baby was big. So clearly, the head of the baby could not come out easily. So he had to perform an episiotomy to cut my wife so that there would be room for the baby's head to come out. So when he did that, it was much, because you know how they will be telling you we have to. So he did that, and my wife delivered. My wife pushed, I think 3 to 4 times, 4 sets. Baby came out, baby was delivered. Immediately after the baby was delivered, the doctor was carrying the baby. I could see, and I was free to move. And what he did was he called on the second doctor, the subordinate, and beckoned on him to sever what I believe was this placenta. And the other doctor was fidgeting. He was nervous. His hands were shaking. So, but the consultant kept nudging him, go ahead, sever it, sever it. So finally he did. And once that happened, the consultant handed over the baby to one of the nurses and said he was going downstairs to check on a patient who had come in for antenatal. Meanwhile, my wife was still there. He left my wife to go and check on a patient who had just come to check, oh, the baby is this way, because it's something we had done. It wasn't an urgent need. So that second doctor performed the suturing, and my wife kept complaining that it was too painful and it was dragging. When he finally finished the suturing, the consultant came upstairs. He didn't observe, he didn't examine what the junior had done, right? He just said, okay, they should take my wife back to the ward. So they took my wife to the 3rd floor. On getting there, my wife started complaining that she could feel something, a liquid flowing inside her. and she's not comfortable. So when she said that, we called the junior doctor, Dr. Ibokwe. He came, he examined my wife, and he said that my wife had pile, that it is pile. I was confused. How? What's the connection? I wasn't satisfied. So immediately I escalated to the consultant. He came upstairs, he examined and said, no, that this is not pile, that my wife's vulva was unusually swollen and that the suturing was too tight. Remember, it was not there, he did not supervise it. So he then moved my wife back to the labor ward, and then he by himself this time now resutured my wife. When he finished, they administered some injections and stuff. So when they brought back my wife to the room, when we got back to the room, the third floor there, my wife was looking so weak. She was unconscious. She was drowsy. Like, she was looking like it wasn't my wife anymore. And she slept. She was unconscious for hours. I was just there consoling myself that, okay, the baby is fine. Maybe this is just what normally would happen, because the doctor will come and tell me everything is fine. He's the professional. Everything is fine. No problem. It's okay. It's normal. But I see people when they deliver. My wife didn't go through CS. I see people when they deliver, they're able to carry their babies. And all of this happened. There was no nurse for the entire time. In fact, the room where my wife was, I couldn't sight oxygen. There was no oxygen in that room. So this continued. They were giving a drip. The doctor will come. My wife was still bleeding. All the pads, these pregnancy pads that we bought, they were all soaked. We kept changing. And the doctor told me that my wife was having internal bleeding. I expected him, okay, what do we do? Move my wife to another facility, a higher place. The guy was reluctant. It was as if maybe there's a reason why he didn't want to move my wife. I couldn't understand. He kept assuring me that my wife was fine. And my wife was bleeding, so they started blood transfusion. As they were transfusing blood, she kept bleeding. So it was like a cycle. You're putting in and it's going out until about 2 a.m. on Thursday morning, when my wife woke up, and she said she was feeling uncomfortable. Baby, I'm uncomfortable. My wife said, baby, let us pray. That was the last comment that she made. Let us pray. As we were about to pray, she started convulsing. Immediately, I started calling on the doctors. They were on the ground floor. We called, yelled, screamed until they heard and started coming. The doctor came, the nurses came. They were so disorganized, they didn't know what to do. My wife was there. And I kept saying, doctor, what's going on? All they were doing was they started doing manual CPR, just to, before they brought the oxygen, they put one hose in my wife's nose. I didn't see much. I was just there. I said, doctor, can't you move her? Where's your ambulance? Let's move her. I helped to put my wife on the stretcher. As they tried to wheel her out of the room, just on the aisle of that third floor, my wife fell and landed on the floor, the third floor. That hospital has CCTV, and I've asked the hospital to publish it. The undoctored one, they will have it, except the doctorate. You will see it. My wife fell. I have witnesses, human beings. My wife's friends, some of our relatives who were there, they witnessed it. Some of the nurses and even the doctors, they saw it. So when my wife fell on the tile, on the floor, I quickly rushed there to help bring her up. Getting downstairs, the ambulance was still parked very close, far, about 80 meters, covered in tarpaulin. It was when I got there that they removed the tarpaulin. And I asked them to start the ambulance. Let us move, take my wife away. So the ambulance kept driving on Lagos Island from Ikate. We went to Lagos Island, we passed all the hospitals in that axis. No relationship, no communication. I was just driving behind them. I felt they knew what they were doing and they knew where they were headed. So I was driving and hoping. We got to Lagos Island. I noticed that the ambulance was just turning. We're just turning round. He didn't have a direction. So I quickly overtook him and stopped and said, what's going on? Where are you going? They were not answering. I came down from my car and went to the front, and then I spoke to the nurse who sat in front, and the nurse said they were going to Marina. So I drove straight to Island Maternity Hospital. I was the one that led them there. So when they got there, they brought out my wife. The nurses there helped. They took her in. It was on that examination that they confirmed my wife dead on arrival, that my wife was brought in dead. So at that point, the consultant told me that he was going to pay for the money that the morgue was requesting, that I should not bother, that he was going to pay for it. So we left from there back to the hospital, Gynescope. Before we got to the hospital, they had even cleaned everywhere, You wouldn't even know that anything happened. If that energy they used was deployed in addressing or, managing my wife's condition, I believe my wife would have made it. My wife fought for her life. If only she had little support, medical support, expertise, facilities, she would have survived. Lo and behold, the doctor, the consultant, came back to us and told us that he has contacted the owner of the hospital, and the owner has told him that they are not going to pay for the mortuary fee anymore. We paid for it, and we insisted for them to give us medical death certificate or medical report of the death. It was another war. It took the intervention of 2 senior advocates of Nigeria, members of my wife's family. After hours, when they finally issued that certificate, the hospital said that my wife died of cardiac arrest. We took my wife to LUT, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and then we requested for an autopsy to be conducted pursuant to the coroner inquest. The autopsy report is not out, but there's a preliminary report stating the cause of death. And then LUT issued us a certificate of cause of death. And then we have that. In that certificate, they have stated that the cause of death for my wife was hemorrhagic shock. Hemorrhagic shock is a shock that comes as a result of lack of blood or shortage of blood. It's a very painful situation for me, my family. We want a thorough investigation. It shouldn't be swept under the carpet. The circumstances surrounding the death of my wife, they are very concerning. Let justice be served. Let the right thing be done so that others, it will serve as a deterrent to others. I've just lost a wife. My son will live the rest of his life without a mother. He doesn't even know what the mom looks like. My marriage is barely 1 year. Yesterday was my first year anniversary. We're planning to have that, but my wife is no more. Government should be responsive. Take proactive steps. Investigate this matter. I've written to the Commissioner for Health. I've written to the Permanent Secretary Health Ministry. I've written to the Permanent Secretary Health Services. I've also petitioned to the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, and I am hoping that they will rise to the occasion and, do what is right.